Hi everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Anna. Today I have a new story for you, called The Reluctant Dog Walker. It's about a busy woman who is afraid of dogs, but who slowly learns to love them. As always, just relax and listen, and let's begin. Lena was 28 years old, and she worked as a customer service manager for a software company in the city. Her days were full of phone calls, emails, and small problems that needed quick solutions. She usually left the office feeling tired, and she rarely had time or energy for hobbies. Lena lived in a small apartment on the second floor of an old building. She lived alone, and most evenings she just watched television or scrolled on her phone until it was time to sleep. She often felt a little bored with her life, but she didn't know what to change. One thing Lena knew for certain, she was afraid of dogs. When she was 7 years old, a large dog in her neighborhood ran towards her and knocked her down. The dog didn't really hurt her, but it barked loudly right next to her face, and Lena was terrified. After that day, she crossed the street whenever she saw a dog coming, even a small, friendly one. This fear didn't disappear when she became an adult. Lena avoided parks where people walked their dogs. She refused invitations to friends' houses if they had a dog. Her fear was small, but it was always there, quietly limiting her life without her really noticing it. Everything began to change when Lena's neighbor, a kind older woman named Grace, asked her for a favor. Grace had a small, gentle dog named Biscuit, and she needed someone to walk him for a few days while she recovered from a small operation. "I know it's a big favor," Grace said, "but you're the only neighbor I really trust. Biscuit is very calm. He won't hurt you, I promise." Lena wanted to say no immediately. Her heart started beating faster just thinking about it. But Grace looked worried and tired, and Lena felt she couldn't refuse. "Okay," Lena said slowly. "I'll try. But I'm a little nervous, to be honest." "That's completely fine," Grace said kindly. "Biscuit is very patient. He'll help you feel comfortable, step by step." The next morning, Lena stood outside Grace's apartment door, feeling her hand shake slightly. When Grace opened the door, Biscuit ran towards Lena, wagging his tail happily. Lena took a step back automatically. "Don't worry," Grace said gently. "Just stay still for a moment. Let him come to you slowly." Lena stood still, breathing carefully. Biscuit sniffed her shoes, then sat down calmly in front of her, looking up with soft brown eyes. Nothing scary happened at all. "He likes you already," Grace said, smiling. That first walk was short and slow. Lena held the leash tightly, walking a little distance away from Biscuit, watching him carefully with every step. But by the end of the walk, something surprising happened. Lena actually felt a little relaxed. Biscuit trotted happily beside her, sniffing flowers and greeting other dogs politely. That wasn't so bad, Lena said to herself as she returned home. She felt a small, unfamiliar feeling of pride. Over the following days, Lena continued walking Biscuit every morning and every evening. Each walk became a little easier than the one before. She learned that Biscuit liked to stop and smell certain bushes. She learned that he got excited when he saw children playing in the park. She began to understand his simple, honest personality. By the end of the week, when Grace felt better and could walk Biscuit again herself, Lena was surprised to feel a little sad. She had actually enjoyed their daily walks together. "Thank you so much," Grace said. "You were wonderful with him." "Actually," Lena said, laughing a little at herself, "I think I enjoyed it more than I expected." "You should think about volunteering somewhere," Grace suggested. "There's an animal shelter not far from here. They always need people to walk the dogs." Lena thought about this idea for several days. Volunteering at an animal shelter, surrounded by many dogs at once, sounded frightening. But she also remembered how good she felt walking with Biscuit, calm and confident by the end of the week. Finally, she decided to visit the shelter, just to look around. The shelter was busier and noisier than Lena expected. Dogs of all sizes barked from behind their cages, and the sound made Lena's heart beat faster again. A staff member named Carlos noticed her nervous expression and walked over to introduce himself. "First time here?" Carlos asked kindly. "Yes," Lena admitted. "And honestly, I'm a little scared of dogs. But my neighbor suggested I visit." Carlos smiled understandingly. "A lot of our best volunteers started exactly like you," he said. "Fear usually comes from not understanding a dog's behavior. Once you learn to read them, most of the fear disappears." Carlos offered to show Lena around slowly, introducing her first to Max, a calm, older dog who mostly liked sleeping in the sun. Lena sat nearby, watching Max breathe slowly and peacefully. Nothing about him seemed scary at all. "Would you like to try walking him?" Carlos asked. Lena hesitated, but she remembered her successful week with Biscuit. "Okay," she said. "I'll try." Walking Max around the shelter's small garden felt easy and calm. Max walked slowly beside her, occasionally stopping to sniff the grass. By the end of the short walk, Lena felt proud of herself again. "You did really well," Carlos said. "Would you like to join our volunteer training program? It's just one morning a week, and it teaches you everything about dog behavior and safety." Lena thought about her free Saturday mornings, usually spent doing nothing important. "Yes," she said. "I think I would like that." Over the following weeks, Lena attended the shelter's volunteer training sessions, led by Carlos and another experienced trainer named Beth. They taught the group how to recognize a dog's body language. A relaxed tail meant a calm dog, while a stiff, raised tail could mean the dog felt nervous or alert. They learned how to approach a new dog slowly, without direct eye contact, allowing the dog to feel safe first. "Dogs communicate constantly," Beth explained during one session. "Through their ears, their tails, their posture. Humans just need to learn the language." Lena found this information fascinating. She began noticing these small signals everywhere, not just at the shelter, but with dogs she saw in the park too. Slowly, the world of dogs started to feel less mysterious and less frightening. During her 4th week of volunteering, Lena experienced her first real challenge. She was assigned to walk a younger dog named Rocky, who was more energetic than the older dogs she had walked before. Halfway through the walk, another dog appeared suddenly around a corner, barking loudly. Rocky immediately became excited too, pulling hard on the leash. Lena's old fear returned instantly. Her hands started shaking, and for a moment, she wanted to drop the leash and run. But she remembered Beth's training instead. "Stay calm, plant your feet, and hold the leash firmly with both hands," Beth's voice echoed in her memory. Lena did exactly that. She planted her feet firmly, held the leash tightly, and spoke to Rocky in a calm, steady voice, just as she had practiced. After a few tense seconds, Rocky settled down, and the other dog's owner walked away in a different direction. Shaking slightly, Lena finished the walk and immediately told Carlos what had happened. "You handled that really well," Carlos said, genuinely impressed. "A lot of new volunteers panic completely in that situation. You stayed calm and did exactly the right thing." "I definitely felt scared," Lena admitted, "but I remembered what Beth taught us, and it actually worked." This small success gave Lena a new kind of confidence. She realized that her fear didn't have to control her actions anymore. She could feel nervous and still make good, calm decisions. As months passed, Lena became one of the shelter's most reliable volunteers. She walked dogs of many different sizes and personalities, nervous rescue dogs who needed extra patience, playful puppies full of energy, and calm senior dogs who mostly wanted gentle company. Her co-workers at the office began noticing a change in her too. "You seem happier these days," her colleague Sam said during a lunch break. "What's your secret?" "Dogs, actually," Lena said, smiling. "I volunteer at an animal shelter now." "It sounds strange, but it's honestly the best part of my week." "You? With dogs?" Sam said, surprised. "I remember you crossing the street to avoid them last year." "I know," Lena laughed. "It's a big change. But once you understand them, they're really not scary at all." Sam eventually visited the shelter with Lena one Saturday, curious after hearing so much about it. He watched, impressed, as Lena confidently greeted several dogs, calmly clipping leashes and guiding even the more excitable ones with steady, practiced movements. "This is amazing," Sam said. "You look completely comfortable." Around the 6th month, Lena faced her biggest challenge yet. A new dog arrived at the shelter named Duke, a large dog who had clearly had a difficult past. Duke was nervous around most people, often growling softly when anyone came too close to his cage. Most volunteers avoided walking him, unsure how to approach such a frightened, defensive animal. Carlos asked Lena if she wanted to try working with Duke, explaining that patient, experienced volunteers were exactly what dogs like Duke needed most. Lena felt her old anxiety returning immediately. Duke was much bigger than any dog she had worked with before, and his growling clearly made her nervous. But she also remembered her own journey, how frightened she once felt even walking calm little Biscuit, and how far she had come since then. "I'll try," Lena said, "but slowly, please." Over several weeks, Lena visited Duke every day, following Carlos's careful guidance. At first, she simply sat near his cage without trying to touch him, letting him get used to her presence. Slowly, she began offering him small treats through the bars. Eventually, after almost a month, Duke allowed her to attach his leash for the very first time. Their first walk together was slow and careful, with Duke stopping frequently, still uncertain and alert. But little by little, over the following weeks, Duke began to relax more with Lena. His tail, once always low and stiff, started to wag gently during their walks. "I really didn't think I could do this," Lena told Carlos one afternoon, watching Duke rest peacefully beside her feet. "He trusts me now." "You earned that trust," Carlos said. "Patience like yours is exactly what dogs like Duke need." Several months later, a kind family visited the shelter, looking specifically for a calm, patient companion. Carlos suggested they meet Duke, and Lena helped introduce them slowly, using everything she had learned. Watching Duke walk confidently out of the shelter with his new family, tail wagging happily, gave Lena one of the proudest moments of her entire year. Inspired by this experience, Lena decided to share what she had learned more widely. She organized a small weekend event at a local park, inviting neighbors to bring their dogs and meet the shelter's volunteers. Carlos and Beth helped Lena prepare a simple presentation about reading dog body language, something Lena wished she had understood years earlier. Several nervous parents brought their children to the event, hoping to help them feel more comfortable around dogs. Lena remembered her own childhood fear clearly, and she spoke gently to a young girl named Mia, who stood nervously at the edge of the group. "Are you scared of dogs?" Lena asked her kindly. "A little," Mia admitted quietly. "I understand completely," Lena said. "I used to be very scared too. But once you learn to understand them, that fear usually becomes something much nicer." By the end of the afternoon, Mia had worked up the courage to gently pet Max, the calm older dog who had once helped Lena overcome her own fear. Watching this small moment, Lena felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Lena also visited her parents that autumn, bringing photos and stories from her months at the shelter. Her mother remembered clearly how frightened young Lena had been after the incident in their old neighborhood. "You, walking big dogs now," her mother said, genuinely surprised. "I never imagined this." "I was terrified for a long time," Lena admitted, smiling. "But once you really understand them, everything changes." Her father, always curious, asked many detailed questions about Duke's story, clearly fascinated by his daughter's unexpected new passion. As the year came to an end, Lena reflected on everything that had changed since that first nervous walk with Biscuit. What began as a simple favor for a neighbor had grown into a genuine passion that filled her weekends with purpose and quiet happiness. Her relationship with stress had changed too. Instead of spending evenings tired and bored in front of the television, she often found herself planning her next visit to the shelter, thinking about which dog might need her patience and company next. She continued volunteering every week, eventually helping train new volunteers herself, sharing her own story with nervous beginners who reminded her clearly of herself, standing outside Grace's door for the very first time. Fear usually comes from not understanding something, she found herself telling new volunteers, echoing words Carlos had once told her, now understood through genuine personal experience rather than simply repeated advice. Reflecting occasionally on her journey, Lena often thought back to that first short walk with Biscuit, remembering clearly how nervous and uncertain she had felt. She never could have imagined, during that anxious morning, how meaningfully dogs would eventually shape her everyday happiness. And that's the end of today's story, The Reluctant Dog Walker. I really like this story, because it shows something important. Sometimes doing a small favor for someone can quietly change our entire life. Before you go, think about this question: is there a small favor, or a small first step, that could lead you somewhere unexpected too? Thank you so much for listening today. This has been Anna, and this is the podcast. See you in the next episode. Take care, and keep practicing your English.